Hello everyone, this is Randy with ProNicheStore. We are ready to install our ProNicheStore site. At this point you should know whether or not your domain name is working, so just type your domain name in your web browser. You should get a screen much like what I'm looking at right here. This is our ProNicheStore installation script. You should have 4 fields. This is used to create our connection to our database. It's the very first step in the actual installation script. You should have already created a database. We have videos showing how to do that in PHP-MyAdmin, DirectAdmin, and also in cPanel. If you have your database and your database user, then you're ready to go to this step. We're going to type in our settings or create our config file for connecting to the database. This first field, localhost, should already be filled in for you. It defaults to localhost. Your host name. It defaults to localhost. In most cases, that's going to be exactly what you use. You shouldn't even have to change that. Localhost is just telling the software that it's going to look on the server that it's on for a MySQL database server and connect to that. Generally, localhost is exactly what you want. For your username, if you created your database and database user inside of cPanel or DirectAdmin, your username is going to be preceded by your cPanel or DirectAdmin username. I hope that's not too confusing. I've been trying to reiterate that through all my videos about creating your database and your database username. It's important because if you don't include that username and underscore before your database and username here, then it won't connect correctly. So for our username, I'm going to type in my cPanel username and also an underscore, and then I'll type in the username that I created for this site, which was PNS10. Next, I'll type the password for that user, but I'm going to type it incorrectly just so that I can show you exactly what happens when you have anything incorrect. For the database, we'll type in the database that I created, which is in this case the same as the username. Like I said before, with the username, your cPanel username and your DirectAdmin usernames are usually prepended to the beginning of your database name. So for instance, if your cPanel username was Eddie, it would be Eddie underscore and then your database name. That's just a heads up because that is a very frequent issue that you will have if you don't understand that has to be in there. And even I sometimes forget it, so that's the reason I keep reiterating it. So we've got the database and the database username and password. Let's hit next, and like I said, I typed in the wrong password so that we can see what it does. It gives us an error message telling us that it couldn't connect to the database server. So that lets you know that something's wrong. We'll go back and I'll fix the problem. I'll fix my password. And it will give you the same error message no matter which one of these fields is wrong. If you typed in the wrong database, it would give you the same error message. So you need to verify that all 3 of these fields are definitely correct. So click next. This time it tells us that it successfully connected to the database server and that it found the database and it created a new configuration file, and the site configuration file is in the install directory of ProNicheStore under the config directory, and the file is called site_config. This right here is the file name that holds the database configuration information. So if you ever need to correct that manually, this is the file you would edit. So now we're ready to go to the next part. Also, it warns you that you are about to overwrite any tables within that database. If you already had information in that database, it will be gone whenever you click that next button. Let's put in our email. Email is very important here. If you do not put the email address, or if you do not use a correct email, you will not be able to retrieve your admin password in the future if you have to reset it. Make sure this is a correct email that you check and have access to. Real name is optional. Username, I usually go with admin. You could actually say administrator or you can type in your real name. Just don't put any spaces. Make this a alphanumeric character only thing, letters or numbers. I'm going to use admin. Password, I'm just going to type in a password, type it twice. Finally, the base URL. This is an important part of it. Your site will not work correctly unless you get this correct. Important to put in the http:// part of the URL, and then type in the correct URL for your base install directory. If you installed ProNicheStore on the site mybigsite.com, you would put in http://mybigsite.com. If it's in a directory inside of mybigsite.com, you would include that directory name at the end. If you need any help with that, we're always available in the forums to answer any questions. We're going to create the table structure now. It has created the table structure, and we've actually finished installation. One last step is we need to rename the install directory. If you do not do this, then when you try to visit your site, it's going to go through the installation process again. You don't want that to happen. So let's click this little click here button. It'll try to rename that installation folder automatically for you. Now, read carefully here. That tells us that we have, in fact, renamed the folder already. As soon as we came to this page, it tried to rename that file, that folder for us without using FTP credentials. If it had failed to do so, we would have been given the option to try FTP credentials here. Sometimes neither process will work. If that's the case, you'll have to rename that installation directory manually using FTP. This is working. We can close that out, and we're ready to log into the site, or we're able to view the site. Let's go ahead and view the site, make sure it works. And it is. Now all you have to do is make your pages and put in your eBay or Amazon plugin. And there's other videos to follow. You will be able to understand how to use the eBay and Amazon plugins from that. So go ahead and watch those videos now and learn how to use ProNicheStore.